welcome to episode 103 of
Mo Money,
the Investing Economics Show for Millennials by a Millennial, where our goal is to educate, entertain, and increase the financial literacy of a whole new generation of investors. I'm, of course, the host of the show, MC Mo. It's showtime, baby. It's Mo time, baby. Let's get to the money. It's no secret that the millennial generation views socialism far more positively than previous generations. It's currently nearly a 50-50 split according to a Gallup poll. If you've ever had a discussion with socialists, you know it usually goes like, how can you like socialism? There is no example of a successful socialist state. Look at the USSR, look at North Korea, look at Venezuela, and they'll always, of course, respond with, well, that's not real socialism. Then you ask, okay, what's real socialism? And then you'll have those who point to the Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and likewise, sometimes Iceland, as this is the perfect example of socialist policies working. You have year after year these countries ranking near the top in terms of countries with the happiest people, countries with the least income inequality, and countries with the best workers' rights protection. So what are these Nordic socialist countries doing so well that they have managed to not completely fall apart into a terrible authoritarian dictatorship hellhole like the previous countries before them? Well, the answer is quite simple. None of these countries are socialist. During Bernie's last presidential campaign, he'd point to these countries as proof that his proposals could be successful, prompting then Danish President Rasmussen to come out and correct Sanders that they are not socialist. They are a market economy. So if they're not socialist, why does everybody think that they are? And if they truly are a market economy, how has their system prevented and avoided the inequalities, the unhappiness, and the financial burdens that we face here in the USA if we have supposedly the same system? The simple truth is the things that the USA claims to be all about, the thing that some politicians claim makes our country the beacon of the world, it turns out the Nordic countries are doing a bit better at it than we are. The Nordic countries all ranked higher than the USA on the Forbes Best Countries for Doing Business list, and 3 of the 4 are top 10 on the World Bank's Doing Business list. It's no surprise that the less regulation businesses have to follow to start a business, the easier and less expensive that it'll be, and thus economic activity will flourish. Instead of governments stepping in and placing a high barrier on businesses, they make sure it's easier to obtain permits, enforce contracts, and get credit. With Norway being the exception, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland all have a high percentage of privately owned companies. Not exactly the socialist, own the means of production dream society. All Nordic countries rank higher on property rights than the USA. That's fucking embarrassing. That's our thing, property rights. And we are losing to them? Shameful! The next big feature of these Nordic economies are unions. These organizations, through collective bargaining with employers and arbitration done by the government, has allowed unions to get fair wages for their employees, improve working conditions, unemployment pay, and a host of other benefits. Union membership in the Nordic countries starts as high as 90% in Iceland, 66% in Sweden, 52% in Norway. All these totals are much, much higher than the 10% of American workers who are unionized. Unions are often credited with building the middle class of the 50s and 60s in the USA, when union membership was 25%. But now with the decline of membership, so has the wealth of the middle class. The courts, which are obviously a very important part of the government, play the role of mediator discussions between employees, i.e. the unions, and the employers, i.e. companies. They don't impose laws to make rules. They let those who are affected make the rules and simply make sure all sides act fairly and honor their agreements. None of the Nordic countries even have a minimum wage law because they depend on the unions to set those themselves, not the government. So that explains the prosperity side of the Nordic countries. Plain and simple, these countries enjoy a high standard of living because their governments involve themselves minimally in the affairs of employees and employers, and the overall economy. Once the money is made, that's when the socialism begins, if that's what you wish to call it, but most just call it a social safety net. These countries all have very high personal income tax rates, from low 40s to mid 50%. These are rates that most Americans would go absolutely apeshit over if they were forced to pay. But in terms of what they receive in return, the people of these countries don't seem to mind. They seem to feel like they're getting a good bargain. At tax rate, you receive free healthcare, free school, free university, and great public transportation. On top of that, they provide good unemployed benefits. They pay for training and education for those who got laid off. They have subsidized leave policies for new parents, benefits for those with children, benefits for those with disabilities, and a guaranteed pension for retirees. The difference between the U.S. system and the Nordic system is that the U.S. system uses means test benefits, while Nordic countries mostly use universal benefits programs, meaning everybody has equal access to benefits, rich or poor. This program seems to undoubtedly work better and encourages people to get into the workforce without fear of losing their benefits, which is why Nordic countries have higher employment rates than the U.S. Here's the bottom line. Sweden, like many other countries in the past, have tried socialism. It had one of the best economies in the world in the 1960s, and in 1970 they switched to a socialist government, and the economy fell far behind until 1990 when they reverted back to a market economy, but they kept the welfare portion. So could this system work in America like Bernie and AOC propose? Well, the advantage these countries have is a small population. Norway, Finland, and Denmark all have around 5 million people, and Sweden has 10 million, and they're all rather homogeneous. They look alike, they speak the same language, they have the same traditions, same religion, same values, and it's easier to create a social safety net when you have that strong sense of community. America is not only larger in terms of size, it's also incredibly more diverse. There's different backgrounds, different languages, different cultures, which is a strength and a benefit to our country, but it also makes implementing large programs like this difficult. Now, obviously, the discussion is more nuanced than this. The longevity of the social welfare state is in question as populations get older, immigration increases, and economies start to slow. End of the day, you can't say free markets rule and socialism sucks. I mean, you can say that. I understand why you would say that. But next time someone says our country should be more like Sweden or Denmark, before you agree or disagree with them, ask them what they mean. And if they say that they should be more socialist, you should correct them, educate them, but do it in a nice way. At the end of the day, just be good. Thank you so much for watching another episode. You can find new and classic episodes of Mo Money right here on YouTube. For now, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, like me on Facebook.
Mo Money signing out for the holidays.